Hello everyone, Diabetes II here. Today I'll be talking about the Dragon Warrior Randomizer 2025 Winter League. In this series of videos, the goal is to introduce each flag set for this upcoming event and discuss some of the approaches and strategies an experienced DWR player like myself might take. First, a brief overview of the league. Live racing will begin with 5 weeks of regular season matchups. Players will race in groups of 4 with points assigned depending on finish order, 5 points going to the winner. Group assignments during weeks 1, 2, and 4 are random, while assignments during weeks 3 and 5 will be positional depending on current standings entering those weeks. From there, the top 16 players qualify for playoff elimination rounds, with seeding determined by regular season point totals. Players will continue racing in groups of 4, with the top 2 finishers in each race advancing to the next round. 4 finals participants will face off in a 2-race series, with the fastest aggregate time determining the winner. Players of all skill levels are welcome to join. It is worth noting that all races are held with no prior knowledge of the seed, rotating flag sets for each week are non-standard compared to those usually raced, and various informational resources are available for all players in the DWR Discord. That is to say, newcomers and veterans alike may be facing new and unexpected challenges with less of an experience gap between them as in other formats. If participation as a player is not in the cards, we always have volunteer opportunities available to facilitate our live race broadcasts. Whether as a restreamer, race tracker, or commentator, we greatly appreciate the time and effort dedicated by our volunteers to make these shows happen. No experience is necessary, and we would be happy to get you up to speed should you offer your time. Participant signups are now open and will remain so until Friday, January 31st, 2025 at noon Eastern. A formal reveal of the participant field will be broadcast on Sunday, February 2nd, time to be determined. Regular season racing will begin immediately, with the Final Four to be concluded by the end of March. League launch and update shows, as well as most races, will be broadcast live at twitch.tv/DWRandomizer, and all relevant documents, participant resources, full race calendar, and standings are available via the DWR Discord community. Relevant links in the description below. Let's take a look at the Week 1 flags. Week 1 is appropriately titled It's Winter Chaos Time. This is the flag set, as well as a highlighted list of differences from standard flags. Chest and search contents are not shuffled, but random chest locations are on. Random weapon prices are on, as well as random XP requirements to level up. Monsters will not have random abilities, but their stats and the XP and gold rewards from defeating them will be randomized. Scared and scaled metal slimes are disabled as a result. Speed hacks, short and easy Sharlock, no keys required, and summer sale are all enabled. Very fast XP curve will be employed, with small map generation. Some flag combination interactions to note include unshuffled chest and search contents with randomized chest locations. So in this case, the chests in the throne room will be vanilla, gold, and torch, as well as the search tiles, the flute being in coal, the armor in Hawksness, and the token on the map, but everything else will be randomly placed. One note with the asterisk there is that the randomization algorithm may swap chest contents if an item is shuffled into a logically inappropriate location, such as the silver harp into Sharlock. Rarely this can result in a key item being swapped out of Sharlock and into the throne room. This is not a glitch, just a consequence of the order of operations with this flag set. The combination of random XP requirements with the very fast leveling curve results in randomized level thresholds that tend to skew more favorably for fast growth. Likewise, the combination of random weapon prices with summer sale will tend to skew prices to be even lower than usual. There are a variety of resources available to cope with the various flags changes, such as a compilation of maps, including this one, highlighting the 60+ alternate chest locations possible in the flag set. Panthagil Castle is one of those examples in which highlighted chests are those not part of the vanilla game. Note 5 additional spots in gold in the treasury, as well as 2 to the right side of the castle. A full set of maps annotating each chest location is available in the DWR Discord. When it comes to randomized values, you may find it beneficial to take notes during gameplay to highlight important discoveries. This week features randomized monster stats and battle rewards, so especially XP-rich targets may be worth annotating, as are those who are physically frail, better handled with magic, or instead fled from altogether. Vanilla monster abilities may also be worth charting ahead of time if you're not familiar with those abilities. Random equipment prices and locations may also be recorded for later upgrade shopping. As I noted earlier, I will discuss my thought process in approaching each flag set and note strategic decision making as I go. Of course, your mileage may vary, as not all seeds are created equally, everyone's strategic preferences and risk tolerances may be different, and frankly, my ideas may simply not represent the most optimal strategies. Alright, let's get to the gameplay, shall we? I'll be providing some post-game commentary and analysis for this. I ran this seed a couple of weeks ago, so it's certainly not fresh in my head as to exactly what happened and when, although I certainly remember some story beats. I'll try to highlight strategic decision-making and my thought processes on how to approach the seed, some of the challenges I faced, as well as comment on whether or not I think some of the decisions I make were good, bad, or indifferent. Strength HP build. Nothing in the flag set would indicate doing anything otherwise. We need to be prepared as best as possible for fighting the Dragon Lord. So with unshuffled chest and search contents, we're expecting Golden Torch here in the throne room. That's indeed what we get. We check a quick glance at the starting stats. No spells to start with no MP. Notice that no keys means the back chest in the throne room will be a gold chest always. I'm going to do a quick pirouette here, out of, back into, and then out of the throne room. That will increment the chest counter from 3 to 6 as we check the treasury here and find the silver harp and more gold. So quest item 1 in the books. That will allow the 9th and subsequent treasure chest to be chest glitched, or grinded if you will. We do have one additional chest here in Tanthagil. This one will be duplicated or able to be picked up multiple times, and it's the Stones of Sunlight. That's actually quest item number 2, and with shuffled contents turned off, we know that the search tiles are going to be vanilla. So the third and final quest item will be on the map. We don't even need to search for the staff turn-in because it's right here underneath Tanthagil. So Staff of Rain, Stones of Sunlight, token will be on the map once we locate Cantlin. Armor will be in Hawksness. The only thing that we need to find, and technically we don't need to find it, although it's certainly very helpful, is Erdrick's Sword. That is probably a fact that has not entirely sunk in with so many things happening so quickly at the start. But nonetheless, we're going to walk outside and see if we can get off the ground. A couple of different things one could do here. Very commonly, you want to walk around in Zone 0 right around the castle. Try to find the so-called noodle enemy that is very limited in terms of its total amount of hit points, no scary abilities, as well as low ability to do damage to you. We seem to have found a reasonable approximation with the Wraith Knight here. It doesn't have a lot of hit points, worth a decent bit, and is able to launch us up to level 7 with some pretty good stat gains and the important spells of Heal and Hurt More. So, 2 really, really important things. 1, sustainability in terms of stats. 2, sustainability in terms of heal. And 3rd, a really important spell in Hurt More that's going to allow us to potentially take down a whole range of additional enemies that may otherwise be very difficult to take down with sword swings, or in this case, with strategic punches. So we could continue to grind here in Zone 0, the Wraith Knight worth 40 XP, certainly not the worst. but considering enemies can be worth hundreds, even multiple hundreds of experience points, it might be worth taking a quick look around. See if we could find some other locations, some better enemies. Off to the east, we find the Tablet Cave. We run into the first instance where Permatorch is active, and that's going to be active for all flag sets throughout the league. But we don't have Radiant. Okay, Radiant would be kind of helpful here, and helpful in most of the caves, in seeing over the walls and minimizing, to a degree, the amount of walking we need to do, because we can see whether a chest is located in the appropriate spot without actually having to walk all the way there. So in this case, that vanilla chest spot we would have seen was empty had we been able to cast Radiant. One on the bottom left also would have been visible without actually having to walk into that little alcove. Nonetheless, only one treasure chest in the Tablet Cave. It's gold. Fortunately, we do have outside to quickly escape, and we discover, oh boy, the Spectre. Over 300 experience, killable with a single Hurtmore blast. That is very likely our grind target. Desert tiles, maximal encounter rate, you love to see it. Hopefully some good co-located enemies and nothing too dangerous. Of course, we're discovering the Metal Scorpion here, which is... well, it's a big damage sponge. Took 3 Hurtmores to kill and wasn't worth a whole lot, so that's unfortunate. In retrospect, I think I probably should have stuck around for a little bit longer, see if I can pick up another 1 or 2 Spectre kills, maybe get a little bit more in terms of levels, improve the safety just a little bit, maybe we find heal more, maybe we find some more of those useful spells. Things like Sleep and Stop spell can be invaluable in both exploration and in grinding. For example, we have enemies here with their vanilla abilities, so the wizards, even though they may be weak, we don't know yet, they are definitely going to be still pretty dangerous with the Hurtmore spell. A little bit further to the northeast here, we found the Stones Cave. No treasure chest there, could have up to 3. So no more freebies there. Again, really the only thing we're looking for is the sword. I don't think I've cognizantly, recognized that fact quite yet. But it is indeed the case. Note, I'm also doing a lot of physical attacks here, really just trying to tease out which enemies I might be able to save MP on and not cast Hurtmore against. MP this early in the game is a finite resource. We don't have a huge pool of it. So if we can take out an enemy with a swing or 2, and save the MP, still get some decent rewards out of it, that's just that much longer we can stay out and not have to seek staying at an inn to refill our MP. And although we just found a town, it's not one that's going to refill us. It's Hawksness. Worst possible time to run into that as well, just as we run out of resources. So we will have to come back. Hawksness will have the armor. Probably want to come back there as quickly as possible. The only problem really is that we may be faced with an enemy that can absolutely decimate us, may or may not be susceptible to Hurtmore, and certainly with no weapon, and at level 8 we're very unlikely to be able to do significant physical damage. So it may not be a winnable fight, but could be something worth coming back to seek out, just for that armor pickup, the walking regen, protection from hurt and Hurtmore. We're not going to see Dragonlord Breath, of course, with non-random abilities on any of the overworld enemies, but even weak breath attacks, elimination of susceptibility to Stop spell, there's so many benefits from the armor here. Running away from a couple of enemies that I probably should have just lobbed a Hurtmore at, test and see whether or not they are good targets or not. The Wolf and the Demon Knight there. Also, I probably should be a little bit more liberal with my use of Hurtmore. Sometimes you don't get much out of it, though. Rogue Scorpion with just 7 XP as a reward. We're in the town of Breckenary here north of Start. Got our first look at the weapon shops. Note how cheap everything is, except for the Copper Sword, which turns out to be the most expensive thing available. But Flame Sword, Small Shield, Full Plate, all great pickups for a relatively cheap price. So with randomized prices plus summer sale, it's quite rare you're going to find anything that is substantially expensive. Doesn't mean you can't find at least, decently expensive things, but you really shouldn't see anything over 10,000. And it's very, very likely that you're going to have very affordable equipment, including the most strong equipment in terms of quality available in the game for a quite inexpensive price. So protracted gold grinds in the early game, or even multiple resets trying to pour some pile of gold to a town, generally not necessary, because just by virtue of fighting a few things or even picking up a couple of additional gold chests, which again, more likely in this flag set, probably gonna happen. Pull up on herbs, dragon scale here in Brecconary, move on. Didn't forget, and it's very easy to forget, especially once you get out of the castle, to check the alternate chest locations. We talked a little bit in the introduction about various maps that exist that highlight all 60 plus of those additional treasure chest spots. So it is important, or, potentially just something to have at your fingertips. We're going to check. You can see on the very far left there, if you walk just inside, whether or not there's any chests there. There's no chests in the inn in Remolder. There's 2 spots there. Vanilla spot plus 1 on the left. Quick check of the shop, and a cheap silver shield to replace our small shield. Magic armor would potentially be nice for a little bit of protection against hurt and hurt more. A little bit of walking regen. But again, the armor is in Hawksness, and I probably should have gone back to try to pick that up. Again, with so many things happening at once, and these being my first one of these, having been played through as a standard flags player, I'm not as used to thinking outside the box when it comes to these flag sets. So it's easy to forget. Star Wyvern, not very lucrative, only 13 XP. Skeleton also one shot with hurt more, but only 6 experience. We know the Metal Scorpion is an absolute damage sponge, so this is a mistake, fighting this. I think I realized, wait a minute, I've seen these before, these are no good. So one thing I did not do during this playthrough, but I would definitely advise, especially if you're like me and can't remember the thing that happened 30 seconds ago, let alone something that happened 30 minutes ago, is taking some notes as to which enemies are lucrative versus not, which enemies are easy to attack and defeat with physical attacks versus with magic, maybe which ones have particularly scary or not scary abilities. In this case, they're vanilla, but if you're not familiar with vanilla abilities, might be worth adding those to your little chart or table. Might also be worth remembering to heal and not getting slept and wrecked by a specter. That's worth 300 plus XP. Whoops. But I did not have a table in front of me. What I would typically do is just have a full list of enemies, and then a place where I can write down, are they worth XP or not? I usually don't write down specific values because I don't think it's tremendously relevant, but something that's worth like 50-ish or less, I would probably discount. Something that's worth 100 or more, I would probably note, and something that is really lucrative, 200, 300 plus, like the Spectre, I would have highlighted, circled, and I probably also would have made some sort of mark on the map that I draw as I play, because I want to be able to come back to that location later to fight more of them. One thing that's hallmark of this flag set is that very often when enemy stats are randomized, as well as the rewards, the enemies that are found on the traditional grind spots, the spike tile in Hawksness and the spike tile in the Swamp Cave, tend to not be lucrative. They may be, but you can't count on that. And nobody wants to sit and fight through something that's not very hurt more susceptible. Has 100 HP, takes 5 or 6 swings to kill, and is only worth 50 XP. So instead, if a protracted grind is required, you may have to find something on the overworld to do it on, so it's worth finding, noting, and remembering where those are. Red Slime, not too bad, took a couple of swings and maybe be more efficient to hurt more, but over 100 XP is decent. back into Hawksness here. Actually get a look at the spike tile this time, see what we have to deal with. It's the Magiwyvern. Dies to a single hurt more, but as we said, not lucrative. 5 experience. And there is Erdrick's armor. So that is the last unknown piece of the puzzle to pick up other than the sword. Of course, we have to find the token, but we just need to find Catelyn to know where that's going to be located. Well, the werewolf is another damage sponge here. Maybe let's not fight those as we find the twin caves of Mountain Cave and Grave. So 2 very chest-dense locations. I'll be honest, I was kind of hoping for Swamp North and South in the appropriate orientation. But alas. Alright, Death Necklace is the first chest, the top of the Mountain Cave. Again, that's an alternate chest location. This is another great opportunity for Radiant to come in handy if you have it, because we could have seen that chest from a little bit further away. We also could have seen whether the vanilla top floor chest is available. Also, going down those stairs would have allowed us to see 3 additional chest spots in the northwest corner of the 2nd floor, which we cannot see across the wall without Radiant, so it can be a bit of a time saver. Get you a little bit of additional information. We find another lucrative enemy, the Wolf Lord 190. Worth keeping in mind that it is here in the Mountain Cave. If it's on the top floor of Mountain, it will also be available in the Swamp Cave. And right on cue, we learn the spell of Radiant. We cast it right away. We take a look across the walls now and see what we would have been able to see previously. No chest there on the center and right. 2 chests here to the northwest. We've got gold. Do we have a lucrative Magidrake? Again, vanilla abilities, it will only have hurt, so it's not going to be damage dealing too much on the magic front. Doesn't seem to be too strong on the physical front either. Poltergeist, not susceptible to physical attacks, but runs away. Wizard doing wizard things with hurt more. Wings. We don't have return, so those could come in handy. Scorpion quite strong. Let's not die due to negligence. There's a torch. Final chest. It's empty. That means it was an herb, and we're full on herbs. So Death Necklace was the only real find here. More often than not, when enemy stats are randomized, since we're dealing with a Chaos Dragonlord fight, as it were, it's very unlikely to want to use the Death Necklace, at least on the first try. Simply for the reason that Dragonlord Part 1 can be very, very, very strong. Now, if you go into that fight once and realize that it's not that big of a deal, you might elect to use it if your other stats are in line for its use. But oftentimes it's not something you want to jump to right away. If the Dragonlord Part 1 can be doing 60, 70, 80, 90 plus damage to you, you probably don't want to cut your hit points by a third. Or 25% rather. Alright, using Radiant, we were able to see from relatively far away that no treasure chests were available on the left side of the top floor of the grave here. Cursed belts and gold here on the top floor of Grave. Opting to not dig. I don't disagree with this position in doing that, so we're only looking for one item, the sword. We know the token is going to be on the map. The harp and the stones are already accounted for. We already have the armor, and that was going to be in Hawksness guaranteed anyway. And there are only 4 total chest spots left in the grave, and they're quite a walk to check. On the other hand, we have lots of more easily accessible places, multiple checks in Catlin, in Garenham, in Cole. So it might be more worthwhile to just check those out first. We're gonna go away from the red slime there. Probably not annotated as something I should be fighting, but probably should be fighting it. Wolflord, same thing. It's like, I know I regretted that as soon as I hit run. You get into the habit of doing it, and all of a sudden it's like, wait, that's something I really wanted to fight. So we will take that one. 190, not bad, not bad. You know, after that first burst of levels, things have really slowed down. Got like 6 levels out of the opening Wraith Knight kill, another level from the Spectre, 1 in the Mountain Cave, and all of a sudden we're at nearly 2000 XP. We just haven't really gone anywhere with this. And that's the nature of random XP to level up. Sometimes multiple levels can be right on top of each other, and sometimes there can be big gaps between them. Alright, continued and finished exploration on this half of the map. There's nothing else up here, and I think this actually is a pretty good chance to go ahead and dive grave here, see if we can dig out all the chests, since we don't want to come back to this half of the map ever again. There's nothing else over here for us to check. That said, one critically important, and I would consider it error, is I don't have the MP to cast outside. So I'm going to have to Death Warp out of here or walk it back. And neither of those sound like good options. So that is one of the 4 possibilities there in the southeast. It was just a cursed belt, which we know we'll find 3 of, given the vanilla search spots. If we walk this way, there's no treasure chest over here, but we can see across the wall, if we have Radiant, that there is a treasure chest there in the center staircase from the hub floor above. Unfortunately, no matter where we walk from, we cannot see the vanilla harp spot unless we go all the way to the bottom. Finish the walk around the perimeter here. You see that the cursed belt chest is non-existent, so we will have at least 1 treasure chest. At best, we'll have 2, and still just looking for that 1 item in the sword. And it's the fighter's ring. It's 2 attack power. That's good, right? Really not worth the dive, but we'll take it. We'll put it on. Eventually. There it is. Alright, does the vanilla harp chest exist? It does, but it had an herb. So no dice. Will we be able to Death Warp out of the bottom of the grave? You know what? It's going to take a minute with the Droll Magi here, but it's doing enough damage that it's not catastrophically bad and slow. It does appear to be defense broken, so it's doing a range from 0 to something, but it appears to extend high enough that it's not doing like 0, 1, or 2 damage every turn. Draw Magic also has Stop Spell, however, which is going to waste time. Fortunately, we do have time-wasting items in our inventory at the beginning anyway, with the Dragon Scale and Fighter's Ring. Durl Magi content to waste time as well. And there it is. So again, not the best decision to dive without the MP to get out of there expediently, but it worked out in that there was an enemy down in there that could take us down. Okay, not many locations for us still to check and find. We've got Cole, Garenham, Cantlin, and Swamp Cave. We also still have to find the Rainbow Drop turn-in, hopefully after we find Cantlin and pick up the coordinates. There is Breckenary. No need to go back there. And red slimes were worthwhile enough that it probably should be fighting them. There's the back of Charlotte Castle. Presumably the entrance is accessible to the east as we see the town of Cantlin. Nothing worth checking in the shops. We already have the armor and the silver shield. We also have Flame Sword. The only upgrade is going to be Erdrick Sword, which certainly won't be found in a shop. Coordinates. Where is the token? 37 north, 22 east. Unfortunately, that's back in the half of the world that we swore to never return to because there was nothing else relevant there. Worth noting, going out that side, note that I paused for a quick second. One of the alternate chest locations is there in the southwest shop of Cantlin. There also was a spot in the inn that I noted when I entered the town. And keeping those things in mind and remembering those alternate locations, critically important. Again, various resources in the DWR Discord available for your use, and references are always fine during races as long as there's no automation or RAM reading or anything like that. So you're free to have maps and tables of data and things like that at your disposal. Alright, there is a cave. It's going to be Swamp or Rainbow Drop turn-in. It's the latter. We have not dug out those coordinates yet, so we will have to come back here. Arguably, the correct decision after exiting Cantlin would have been to count those coordinates outright immediately, so that I would be ready. Nonetheless, we're going to stumble into Swamp Cave, and this is going to have to backdoor into Garenham. There are 3 alternate chest locations here in Swamp Cave, in the northeast and southeast corners, which we know is empty, and then one in Gwaelin's cell, which, again, is another spot that is not visible, even with maximum radiant, unless you defeat the spike tile enemy. And no, I swear, the encounter rate is not boosted in Mountain Cave. It's 1 in 16, we're just getting a lot of them. No chest there. Does Gwaelin hold the sword? If not, we're left with Cole, Garenham, and Charlock. Magician on the spike tile can't really do damage. We all know it only has hurt, so it's not going to do much there either. And 117, that's not bad. Depends on how susceptible to hurt more it is. We got it 1 for 1, but we may have just gotten lucky. Unfortunately, while Gwaelin does have a chest, it's the dragon scale, so no dice there. Right? Here's the back door into Garenham. 4 possible chest locations here, all of which are empty. 1 more possibility in the inn. Cole on screen to the southwest. And no chest here. So no reason to come back. 2 possibilities in Cole. We also have the search tile for the flute. With randomized enemy stats, it's very unlikely, though not impossible, that the golem is relevant. Oh, there is a chest here. But far more often than not, it's worth keeping the inventory slot open and leaving the flute behind. Meanwhile, the old man had some herbs and we stole them. Sorry, man. And the inn is empty. That means the sword, by default, is in Charlock. Taking the opportunity since we're far away and now have checked everything. We don't have return, but we did have a set of wings. We said they may come in handy. And they do indeed. We're gonna go back home, count those coordinates, pick up the token. Probably turn that in for the rainbow drop, and may just take a dip into Charlock to get that sword. And not guaranteed that it's free to access. So one thing to keep in mind here is that we have a combination of short Charlock with the alternate search tiles or alternate chest locations, which could mean we enter at the bottom, and it's a very long, windy walk backwards through Charlock to find a treasure chest way up on the top floor. But hopefully it's just on the bottom floor in the treasury or something. The perfect count, right under the bridge. Sometimes the game's a troll, sometimes a troll is underneath the bridge, hiding the token. So 30 minutes in, we're effectively find the sword, grind, and go. The only place the sword can be is in Charlock. Now normally we might consider, well, Charlock dive, we can dive and grind as we go, but again, in randomized enemy stats, the most difficult enemies are going to be there, but not necessarily the most lucrative ones. So it's hard to say whether or not they will be worth fighting. Big strength gain there for the hero after obliterating that specter. Gonna stick around, see what else is in the zone. We know the Rogue Scorpion is not worth it at all. Metal Scorpion is also not worth it, and a huge damage sponge. Skeleton I know that I've fought already, and I don't remember that I have. It's also pretty worthless. So this seems like there's 1 good enemy, and there's at least 3 bad ones here. Is this really a good grind? And the answer is, it's not horrendous, but it's also not good. Remember, we did have the Magician. We only cast 1 hurt more against it, but it did land. We never tried a physical attack that I recall. And it was worth like 115 experience, give or take. That's not terrible. Obviously, that's about 1/3 of what this Spectre's worth, but if I have to pace around and hope to get Spectre encounters versus a guaranteed every other step Magician, it's kind of hard to say that the Magician's not the more optimal play. Well, Red Slime's another decent target in this area, 117 XP. Fairly easy to 2-shot. One other problem with the Spectre that we've now come across is that it's not 100% susceptible to hurt more. And it's certainly weak enough to run as well. So we may be wasting our time in some of these encounters. Also, I encountered a Wraith Knight, which is a 6th enemy. Spectre, Rogue Scorpion, Metal Scorpion, now Star Wyvern, Red Slime, Wraith Knight, Skeleton. Something's got to give. I'm actually straddling 2 zones here, and I'm not sure which is which. So that makes this even worse. So I need to figure out, are the specters to the west? Are the specters to the east? You'll probably see me shift one direction or the other as I realize this momentarily. And or just decide, you know what, this zone kinda sucks. Alright, finally there's another level up. 7 more power is pretty decent. Still only level 12. We do need to defeat the Dragon Lord, and not only the Dragon Lord. Dragon Lord Part 1 may be a foe to be reckoned with, and Chaos Dragon Lord is never a great thing to encounter. So whereas we know the range of the standard flags, Dragon Lord is pretty stable and pretty well defined with a maximum hit points of between 150 and 165. The range is a little bit more extreme when it comes to DL2 when the stats are randomized, and that is between 100, which sounds great, and 230. So, yeah. We may be good to go at like 114 attack power if we throw some Fairy Waters in the inventory and have a bunch of heal mores. On the other hand, we may need 140 and still might not get through the whole fight because he's got so much in the way of hit points that we need to sustain for much longer than one might expect otherwise. Plus, Dragon Lord Part 1 may sap some of those resources in the process. So it really becomes a difficult exercise in determining whether or not you think you can win, and whether or not you want to, quote-unquote, waste time seeking information by doing a preemptive or early dive into Charlock to see what does that look like. Is the spike tile just outside the Dragon Lord's throne room really tough? Is Dragon Lord Part 1 the real final boss? In this case, Charlock is not super close to home, but it's also a small map, so it's not horrendously far. But we're also only level 12 and the stats are not that impressive, so we are not close regardless. Notice that I'm now pacing the western half of this desert looking for a slightly better enemy set and really kind of hopefully realizing, yeah, this isn't very good. I need to leave. If nothing else, the extra 12 attack power from the sword could be putting some of these enemies that I'm not one-shotting into range of one-shot. It's not going to make that much of a difference, but if it increases the likelihood a little bit, it's certainly not a bad thing. Plus, diving into Charlock will give us some information about what we're still to face. It'll also let us know if we have an easy trip a couple of steps in to get the sword versus having to reverse dive the whole thing up to the top floor. Making a long walk up to the northeast. Gonna pick up the rainbow drop. Very likely stop in Cantlin on the way into Sharlock. Keep in mind that the entrance to Swamp Cave is just to the east of Sharlock, so walking back and forth to Cantlin, not the worst, versus outsiding out and backdooring into Garenham. Remember, we don't have to worry about keys, so running out of keys is not a problem when it comes to that. Taking the opportunity here as well, looks like to dump the inventory in favor of Fairy Waters. Not the best, not the worst idea by any means. They're based on the stats. Again, I don't have the numbers in front of me, but they're pretty bad. So Fairy Waters, and even again, if they're not useful against the Dragonlord Part 2, they just may be against DL1 if it has absolutely outrageous agility, or even a Spike Tile enemy if it has outrageous agility and you don't want to burn MP casting Hurtmores, especially if they're not super susceptible to it. One other thing that I didn't mention that I didn't do but certainly could have, and probably has unique utility in a flag set where XP is randomized for leveling up, is I chose not to save and return the princess. And that's an interesting choice. It does take time, and repeatedly checking how many XP we need to level up also takes time. But that can be really valuable information, knowing that, well, you know, a level up is only a few hundred XP away, as in the very first chest we find the sword, so we're good to go. Versus level that's 2,000, 3,000, 5,000, 8,000 XP away. If you don't know that it's there, you might say, well, you know, let's just go for it. And then you do a bunch of grinding, and 3 or 4 minutes passes, you still haven't gotten a level up, you go check, and you're still another 2,000 or 3,000 away, but you feel like, well, I spent the time going half or 2/3 of the way, I guess I should keep going, and that sunk cost fallacy can really damage you. So I think it's very much worthwhile, or at least worth considering, to save the princess and have access to that remote XP calculator. Dracula here in Sharlock, pretty lucrative. 244 is pretty good. They're very weak. Big HP gain, which is nice because we were still just above 80 hit points. Finally have Heal More in tow. Attack power is still not good. Certainly better with the sword. Nice crit. So while the Dracula here is good, it's kind of co-located with some not great enemies. The Druids are very resistant to physical attacks, as we've seen so far. Oh, but they have very low hit points, and while 70 isn't great, it's not the worst. Certainly better than skeletons for a single-digit XP gain and doing a bunch of damage to us in the process. At least check the Spike Tile. It's the Magiwyvern. Unfortunately, we did face one of these in Hawksness, and it's worth single-digit XP. It has Sleep. It's not great. Let's see if we can grind down some more Dracula here. I don't dislike it. They seem to be at least relatively common. However, the fact that they can run away and we're not one-shotting them, again, potentially burning time on encounters here. Especially encounters that aren't good ones. We got one okay one with the Druid. Skeleton and Poltergeist are both pretty bad. And if the Dracula can run away, we're not even getting the XP boost from it. But once again, I think the Magician in Swamp Cave might be our best bet. Also, even a Hurtmore landing is not one-shotting the Dracula, so that just is even worse in terms of trying to guarantee ourselves kills here. Not only do they have a 25% chance to run before I even have a chance to act, as demonstrated in the last two encounters, they have a 25% chance to do so every turn that I don't take it out. You see just how bad the attack power is, 106. So we would be reliant basically exclusively on Fairy Waters to do damage to DL2 at this stage, so level 14 ain't it? So even if the level is obscenely and stupidly far away, we're kinda locked into continuing to level up. Looks like I'm going to check the last chest here. I'm not sure what I would be looking for. There's really nothing it can be that's of any use. Oh, no. Ah. Merely switching from a 3-tile wide area to a 5-tile wide area to make it a little bit easier on the thumbs. Clearly a very good decision. That said, staying here and pacing the desert, not the best decision, methinks. One thing I could or should do that I did mention earlier, it is a bit of a time sink to at least do the information gathering, but I could take a look at the Dragonlord fight, see if DL1 is particularly stupid and horrendously difficult, or stupid and incredibly easy and free. We'll also gotta look and see what we might be looking at in terms of how much hit points, do we have any spells or things to worry about, because one thing that has not come up in conversation is an interesting interaction between vanilla abilities and random stats, but I'll leave that up to when it happens. Alright, I'm electing not to check the Dragonlord. We'll see if that comes back to bite me at any point. Taking the opportunity to go back to Cantlin and heal. Perhaps take a moment to rethink the grinding strategy here. Oh no, am I gonna get sucked back into the Spectre grind? Metals. If I needed cash, Metal Slime's pretty good. Over 500 gold. Nearly as good as the Gold Man in Standard Flags. Druin here as well. We said that that's, again, it's an easy one-shot. Skeleton's no good. Another level up. Meager stats once again as we learn the spell of Hurt, which is not at all helpful. Yep, I've been sucked into another walking grind. But the levels are now suddenly coming fast and furious. But once again, no strength. Who needs strength? Level 16 stop spell. All spells now having been learned. You know, have I killed a wizard yet? I don't know that I have. I also don't know that I've tried a Hurtmore against one. Is it worthwhile? You know, at 167, if it's Hurtmoreable, even if it's not, that's not bad. This could be an okay zone. We really just need to get those one-shot Hurtmores against the Spectres, and hopefully they don't run. Alright, this is a little better than I thought it was. Yeah, Metal Slime is not great, but if it's an easy one-shot, it's, you know, it's 45, it's fine. Skeleton's a no-go. But things like that. So I guess at this point, since we seem to be in just forever grind mode until we gain the necessary stats, is there anything else that we could have or should have done differently in this one? I think overall, at least a reasonable approach. I think it took me a little bit, in retrospect, to figure out that the only thing I didn't know the location of but needed to find was the sword. One thing also to consider in this flag set, although with the expanded chest pool it's a little bit harder to bank on Sharlock, but if you don't want to dive a ton of locations and you do have your quest items, the fact that you enter to the bottom floor of Sharlock right away does give you access to a whole bunch of treasure chests in a fairly small area. So if it's between, let's say, Sharlock, bottom of grave that you haven't dug out yet, and coal that you've yet to find, and maybe Remolder or something, it might be worth just, you know, doing the turn-ins if you have access to everything, and just going into Sharlock and seeing what you can find. We didn't do that in this case, and it did turn out that the sword was there, but, you know, we could have done that. Another level up, another 1 strength. Oh boy. And then the last real thing to decide is what we alluded to earlier. When do you go after the Dragon Lord? Knowing that it is highly variable, we didn't, on my first opportunity, actually get any information about DL1 or 2. So I don't know if DL1 has infinite attack power and can do obscene damage per swing. Would have been nice to know. We also don't know how many hit points he has or anything else. But that can kind of skew the math a little bit as to whether or not you might think you're ready for DL2. And then, of course, DL2, with a range of 100 to 230 attack power, that's a big, or HP rather, that's a wide range. That, depending on your attack power, you know, you might need 6 or 7 heal mores to get through to 100, but you might need 16 heal mores to clear the full range of 230 hit points. At what point do you decide, I want to give it a shot, and play the odds that DL2 is going to have less than 150, because I can confidently get to that point, but not much beyond, And do you want to waste the time of a preemptive dive that fails at the potential cost of extra grinding that gets you stats and level ups that you don't need? So it's a tough call. In this case, I think my hands are kind of tied, because the stats are so bad that I'm reliant exclusively on fairy water to do damage, and barring running in and lobbing Hurtmores, hoping to land an early one and pray that enough fairy waters that I can carry is gonna do that magical amount of damage, we're kind of stuck grinding here. As I said earlier, and kind of repeated when I was in Sherlock, I do think, based on everything we've seen, the Magician may be the best call here. No strength. Game, why? No strength, no agility. I don't think I ever physically attacked the Magician, so if I were able to physically attack it down, even better. If I'm reliant on Hurtmore, I got lucky perhaps in the one time I cast it I did hit. If it's consistently susceptible to Hurtmore even, that's still pretty lucrative. Multiple ways to heal up that are relatively close by, either back down south through Cantlin here to the west, or outsiding up through Cantlin at the north exit. Any consistent 110, 115 XP per encounter, not having to walk around in between, not having to deal with enemies running away, not having to deal with unfavorable encounters like the skeleton, not having to deal with the metal slime that's only worth 45. There's a lot of pluses. It's not common that the spike tile is the way to go, but I think this is an instance where it was good enough that it probably would be faster than what I'm doing currently. The grind that keeps on grinding. Wish I had more insightful things to say. There's only so much one can say while pacing back and forth across the same 5 tiles in the desert for 20 minutes. Hey! Level up. Let's go. 19, 0, 9. The hilarity. 19, 0, 19, 19. And there were so many 19s in the stat gains that we went from level 18 to 20 and skipped 19 altogether. You know, sometimes the game has a sense of humor. Strangely enough, still, the attack power isn't exactly overwhelmingly good, but I think combined with the hit points that we now have a much better pool of MP. We have a bunch of fairy waters to compensate for the low attack power as well. We certainly can take out quite a chunk of DL2's possible damage range, so let's go after it. We don't want to have to grind anymore anyway. Nicely timed critical hit. And we are about to be declared a fool. Alright, is DL1 the final boss? 13 damage isn't bad, that's fine, that's fine. Hurt more, sure, sure. Done close to 100 hit points of damage, no kill yet. Not a big deal, he's got a lot of hit points, we might have to burn some resources here. Oh. He has heal more. Well, this is an interesting development now, isn't it? But diabetes, you say? I thought enemy abilities weren't randomized. Dragon Lord's not supposed to have heal more. And you would be correct. It was a flag interaction that I did not highlight at the beginning, but it is critically important that the interaction between non-random abilities and random stats doesn't override when it comes to Dragonlord 1 and 2. And not only does DL1 have an ability, Dragonlord 2 has one too. Ambush, sleep, put back to sleep, and dead. Ripperoni. So, add it to the list of flag interactions to keep in mind. If randomized stats are on, regardless of what the flag is for enemy abilities, Dragonlord 1 and 2 will always have the possibility of randomized abilities. That also means, if you noticed, I didn't comment on it, but I did try to put the Dragonlord Part 1 to sleep. That's generally not gonna work. While the resistance for stop spell is randomized in this case, so that it's at least vaguely possible he doesn't have 15 and 16 resistance to it, guaranteed. Sleep doesn't change, so he still will have 15 and 16 resistance to sleep, but stop spell is a much more favorable proposition. So definitely worth trying to stop spell DL1. DL2, same deal. Sleep's susceptibility is not randomized, but stop spell susceptibility is. So if we can knock down that sleep before he puts us to sleep, those are just going to be wasted turns. Not only that, in this case, because DL1 has hurt more, we're also saving a ton of damage here, and therefore a bunch of MP used on heal mores. Because he has a lot of hit points as we're learning. It's like 6 attacks in, and we're still not having taken him out yet. But he's now in heal more range. We should be able to take one on the next swing. We do. No ambush, please. Darn. Okay, we didn't get put to sleep. And we land the stop spell. Okay, we do. Perfect. Sleep is no longer a threat, and not only now is what could have been a more difficult Dragonlord fight. Now that threat is gone, this is now a much easier fight, because enemies don't recognize when their spell has been stopped. So he will continue to waste turns and grant us extra opportunities to do damage. Save heal mores in the process, and just earn double after double or triple, quadruple attacks where we don't have to burn heal mores. I also have this big stack of fairy waters in the inventory. We don't have more than 134 attack power, so we might as well use them. .134 attack power is roughly when the damage range of fairy water is equivalent to that of a physical attack. 9 to 16 versus 8 to 17. Your attack power is greater than 134, you're better off using your sword swipes. It's less than 134, you're better off with the fairy water. On average. Well, I haven't been counting damage, but we've already taken quite a few swings. So he didn't have low hit points, that's for sure. So I don't think doing any early pre-level 20 shenanigans were going to be in tow for us, unless, again, we landed some crazy hurt more combo early on. So otherwise we would have been doing like 2 to 4 damage per swing, and that's not going to get the job done. There it is. I would even venture to say I don't know if we would have won this fight if it didn't have sleep. He had so much in the way of hit points that we might not have been able to survive that entire fight. Scary to think about. Fortunately he did. We're able to get it done. And we are going to finish here the final time of 106.40. Well, probably 106.47. I didn't quite hit the timer there. So there you go, there's a playthrough of a Week 1 flag set. Certainly not the best gameplay overall, but definitely I've got a better handle, I think, on the full complement of things to consider in this flag set. So among the various things, don't forget to check all of your alternate chest locations. It's very easy to nope out of a town or something without checking those if you don't remember. Don't forget that your search spots are vanilla, so you don't need to go searching for the armor or the token somewhere. Also, maybe don't bother picking up the flute because it kinda doesn't matter in this flag set. Make sure that you note the ID and location of specific good grind enemies, because although one spike tile here was at least acceptable, very often none of them will be good. And don't forget, Dragon Lord 1 and 2 can have a randomized set of abilities and ruin your day, so make sure to account for and plan for that as well. So as we let the vanilla credits here, we're going to also see the randomized credits, but that will just about do it for me. Hopefully this introduction and playthrough were helpful in highlighting some of the unique challenges of this flag set, as well as some strategies and resources to overcome them. I do hope you consider joining us in the 2025 Dragon Warrior Randomizer Winter League, whether that's as a player, a volunteer, or just an audience member. All the relevant documentation about the league and a link to the Dragon Warrior Randomizer Discord are available in the description of this video. If you enjoyed this content, please like and comment below. Also, feel free to join me at twitch.tv/diabetes2 for live DWR racing action and other gameplay. Thanks again for watching, have a good day, and we will see you next time.